Hello, Synapse community. My name is Ryan Majitimer, and I'm a product manager on the Azure Synapse Analytics team. I'm joined with Simon Whiteley for the June edition of the Synapse MVP video series. Each month, I'm joined by an MVP, and we talk about a topic that they're passionate about. Today, we're going to be talking about Spark and the release of Spark 3.2, why it's good, and why you should care. Let me hand it over to Simon for him to introduce himself. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm Simon Whiteley, a data platform MVP from the UK, and I am a massive fan of Apache Spark.
Let's dive right in. What do people commonly use Spark pools and Synapse for? Are they just for data science?
No, not at all. Now, Spark pools are great for data science because they support Python, because they support a whole range of community libraries for doing data science work. So they're a great choice if you're doing data science at scale. You need the power of the Spark engine. However, it's also great for data engineering because you can write it as a programming language. You can use a solution. You can build a script to process some data and then use that same script dynamically to process lots of other bits of data. So if I'm doing some data cleansing, I can write a generic cleansing script and then clean all of my different data with that single script. And it's just really, really powerful for doing standard data preparation work. You can also stream data via Spark. You can use it for real-time data analysis and for big batch ETL workloads, and all the commands are very, very similar. Finally, it's also really, really good for dealing with interesting complex data types. So it's not just tabular data. You can use it to parse and encode things coming from audio files. You can use it from large documents. You can control horrible, gnarly, complex JSON data structures, and you can do it all via the single tool. There's so many different ways you can use Spark for pure engineering, for data analysis, for exploration, for building out graph databases, as well as doing it for pure data science.
Wow, it sounds like Spark is really flexible and gives you a lot of options. It also seems like it's constantly evolving. For instance, there's a lot of new features in Spark 3.2. Can you tell me what you're most excited about in the new version?
Absolutely. There's a huge amount that went into Apache Spark 3.2. Now, because it's a big open source ecosystem, there's a huge amount of changes and a huge number of collaborators who are making changes and inputting into that central model. Now, there are thousands of Jira tickets all solved as part of it, but a couple of things I'd really make special mention of. First is the Pandas API. Now, Pandas is a really common Python library for doing data manipulation, for reading data from a file and grouping it, manipulating it, and basically doing data transformation. But it never really scaled. It all works on a local Python environment. Now, there's a thing called Koalas, which is a Spark-friendly version of it, but from 3.2, you've got the full Pandas APIs being built into Spark. So you can write Pandas commands, you can take your existing scripts and just run them on those Synapse Spark pools and actually be able to use Pandas as if it was your local machine. And that makes it so much more accessible for data analysts, for data scientists to use their existing code and their existing skills. There's also the ANSI standard compatibility mode we can now turn on. Now, Spark has its own flavor of SQL. You can write just SQL statements inside of Spark and it'll work mostly how you expect. But certain things, if you've gotten used to, if you're in a SQL Server environment, it behaves differently in Spark because it always tries to finish the query, doesn't want to error. So if you tried to parse a data type and it wasn't that type, if you tried to divide by 0, we know these things cause an error in SQL Server, whereas in Spark, it'll just null that data out. And we can turn on ANSI standard mode to allow it to enforce all the rules of ANSI standard behavior, and then that makes it a lot more friendly, a lot more accessible to people coming from a SQL background. We can now turn that on, and that's great. It's all about accessibility. Finally, there's a thing called AQE, Adaptive Query Execution, and that is now turned on by default from 3.2, which means loads in terms of performance. Talk about what that actually means.
There's certainly a lot to be excited about for Spark 3.2. You mentioned AQE. What is that and what does it mean for somebody using Spark pools?
So, like many compute engines where we write a query, we expect the engine to figure out how to query the data, how to do a join, what kind of approach to use to give us our answer. And that all uses the internal query engine in Spark the same way as it would in any other system. Now, AQE, Adaptive Query Execution, changes its behavior. Now, previously, before it did anything, it would make a plan. You'd say, I think the data should be joined like this, and it would go off, assemble that plan, figure out the most optimal plan, and then stick with it. However, what happens when you actually read the data? You start reading it, and you realize there's way more data than you thought. Or that the data's heavily skewed. Your original plan actually isn't a good plan once you start working through it. Now, in the old days, Spark would just blindly keep on going, and it might be a bit inefficient. These days, it'll actually serve every single step of the query, it'll reevaluate and go, is this still the smartest way to do it? So it needs to combine some small data sets to get rid of skew, change how it's partitioning on the fly. If it needs to use different join types and broadcast it across all of your workers, essentially all of the horrible, gnarly bits of performance optimization that we need to think about when we're dealing with large parallel systems. Actually, we can just allow AQE to deal with that for us. Now, this has been around for a couple of versions of Spark now, but it's only from 3.2 it's been turned on by default. Realistically, what does that mean for you? Honestly, your queries will go faster without you really thinking about it. And for doing the kind of workloads where you're joining data sets together, you're exploring data, you're trying to stitch lots of things, lots of joins, lots of aggregations, they're the kind of things that previously it might go a bit slow because it's taken a fairly naive approach. Now, all those kind of workloads should go faster if we're using adaptive query execution. And it being turned on by default just means people don't even have to know about it. It's just Spark should go faster. It's one of those nice optimizations that you see as versions increase, as the whole system evolves. We'll just see things getting better and better and better. So don't think about it. AQE just makes things faster.
Thanks for joining us today, Simon, and talking about all of the coolest features in Spark 3.2. And thank you for watching the June edition of the Azure Synapse Analytics and MVP video series. Tell us in the comments what your favorite part about Spark 3.2 is. Again, my name is Ryan Magitimer. You can find me on Twitter. You can find Simon on Twitter, Mr. Cy Whiteley. You can find Azure Synapse on Twitter, Azure_Synapse. You can join the Azure Synapse Influencers Program. Information's in the description. It's very cool. All the cool kids are doing it. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.